Liebe Freundinnen und Freunde der Ukraine, wir haben Maksym Butkevych heute zu Gast. Er ist Journalist und Menschenrechtsaktivist und trat zu Beginn der russischen Invasion der ukrainischen Armee bei und wurde im Juni 2022 von russischen Soldaten gefangen genommen. Dear Maksym, thank you very much for coming to Berlin. We are pleased you're here today to give us some insights about your captivity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for invitation. Thank you for coming. Thanks a lot.
Can you describe us briefly what you did before the full-scale invasion?
Well, the main thing I was doing for almost 20 years of my life was trying to defend human rights, to help those who are specifically vulnerable to discrimination. I was called Human Rights Defender. This is a very honorable title for me, so it had to be earned. And primarily I helped refugees and asylum seekers in Ukraine who tried to find asylum there, fleeing from persecution in their home countries with authoritarian regimes. And also, together with my colleagues, I tried to counteract, to combat xenophobia and different sorts of discrimination, would it be racism or homophobia or other kinds of prejudice. And also I stood for basic civil liberties and human rights, freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, and also freedom from torture. And this was my main activity.
After the full-scale invasion, you joined the Ukrainian army. When and why did you that?
When the full-scale invasion started on the 24th of February 2022, I think I was one of those who was almost ready for it, but still did not believe that this madness can take place in that year. And to me it was quite clear-cut. I was in Kiev, in my native city, and the battle raged on the outskirts of Kiev already. It had to be defended. I've got basically a choice to flee or to fight. I always despised violence. I always protested war. I am actually anti-militarist by my views. And this is why I became a proud member of the armed forces of Ukraine. Because to me it was very clear. I dealt with refugees from Russia, and also I was in touch with Russian human rights defenders, and I knew that if Russia prevails, then there will be no human rights defense in Ukraine anymore, because there will be no Ukraine. We'll have systematic violations of basic human rights, and basically everything we've achieved in previous years of struggle and advocacy and cooperation will be erased. So if I was a human rights defender, I had to defend human rights, and at the time it was possible only, unfortunately, by taking up arms. And this is why I joined the armed forces of Ukraine.
You described your background, and in Germany we still have some leftists who criticize Ukrainian people who joined the army. Can you explain them what is going on, and what would you tell them who are saying you're fighting for Americans, a proxy war, or for Ukrainian oligarchs? What would you tell them?
Well, we were told actually in captivity by Russian interrogators that we are just a cannon fodder for oligarchs, that they do not fight, or their children do not fight, and we do. And to me it didn't really matter, because there is such an important thing as my personal responsibility. Everyone has to give account for him or herself, not about the others. My duty was to defend my loved ones, my relatives, my friends, my colleagues, my people, my country against Russian invasion. This is the basic fact. All these stories about American puppets and everything, they're conspiracies. And I should say, you know, for some reason, people who were protesting imperialism for decades Some of them became blind to the fact that there is not one imperialism, that actually this is pure imperialistic war waged by empire in making, Russian empire. And when they do not want to assist Ukraine, they, calling themselves anti-imperialists, are in the same camp with empire. And if they say that they want peace, and this is why German people should stop supporting Ukraine, well, you know, this is still free country. Everyone is entitled to hear the whole views, to be able to pronounce them, well, so far at least. But let's be honest, if you witness crime of huge proportions committed in front of your eyes, and you do not help those who are attacked while you can help, then you are complicit to this crime. You are part of this genocidal war. And if one says, I am for peace, this is why we should not give arms to Ukraine. Just say it clearly, we are with the aggressor. We want Ukraine to cease to exist. We want genocide to take place. We want hundreds of thousands of people to be imprisoned or killed. And this is what we call peace. Unfortunately, we see that a lot of people just maybe are afraid of being honest. Let's be honest and call those who are for war crimes, genocide, and crimes against humanity who they are. Whether they say they are anti-imperialists or they are for peace or anything else, this is just not true. Those who want peace, what they do, they support Ukraine.
You were more than 2 years in Russian captivity. What were the most challenging parts?
The most difficult part of captivity were first several months. The whole captivity, of course, is difficult for any person to endure because freedom is a natural state of a human being and captivity is not. But first several months were the most difficult. This is when most of interrogations took place. This is when violence has been used on systematic level. This is when hunger prevailed. Lack of hygiene items was an everyday life thing. But probably what was the most difficult was this atmosphere which the guards created of fear and violence. Because violence, as I realized in those several months, it's not even about destruction, it's about dehumanization, about turning other people into objects which can be ordered to sit down or stand up or sing Russian anthem or lie or do push-ups or sit-ups. You turn another human being into a toy, and this is what violence is. And then if you are bored or your toy is disobedient, you can try to break it. This is actually what I witnessed in captivity, but later on I realized this is also the way the whole Russian system works, where human being is nothing and the state is everything. And fear probably was the most difficult thing to experience. But later on I realized that fear is a predominant emotion, predominant feeling in Ruski Mir, in Russian world, which they try to impose upon Ukraine by invading our country and killing us.
One last question. How has this Russian captivity changed your views on human rights and the war in Ukraine?
You know, as a human rights defender, of course, I understand that these are dark times for human rights around the world, that those forces who reject them as a notion, who don't believe that people have agency, people have rights, that people can and want to choose their own destiny and their own path, these forces which despise it, they are on the attack. And it makes human rights not only more fragile, but much more important to defend. I think I never understood even before how important it is for us to hold to our basic fundamental values. And our basic and fundamental values are freedom and respect towards human dignity, towards others around us. We might agree or disagree, but we should live together in respect towards each other's dignity, respecting each other's freedom and supporting each other, because this is the only thing that matters. And this probably was enforced very much by my experience in captivity, and these are the fundamentals which I am going to build my activities from now on, to continue it.
Thank you very much, Maksym Butkevych. Дякую.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Thank you for supporting Ukraine. Support each other and support Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!